Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Tuesday Night Hall Pass. It's me, Craig, aka Bad Dog, from Two Dogs Digs, along with my better half, who is downstairs. So I'll bring him on in a minute, Mr. Rick, Good Dog Melange. Today, we're actually talking about thrifting for dollars. So dolls and dollars. It's something that we've been doing a lot of. I actually did something last Friday that made me think this would be a good actual show to do. It was funny because even today in the Kennel Club, Heather actually asked a question specifically about doll cases, Barbie doll cases, which I'm going to talk a little bit about today as well. But yeah, we're going to talk about what kind of dolls to look for, what's vintage, what's not considered vintage in the Barbie world, what other kind of lines you often see when you're looking at thrift stores especially, but garage sales and sometimes even estate sales. A couple of different things to avoid if you can, because we'll walk in and see an entire bin or wall and literally walk out with nothing. So we actually avoid a lot of dolls, and there's a reason behind that, and I'll go through that as well. And talk to you, show you a bit about some of the stuff that we got behind us, including a box that I've just been throwing things in over the past 2 months that I actually got to do some digging into to try and figure out exactly what I've got and what we can list them for. So hello to everybody. Let me just pop into Mr. Other Dog downstairs. Hello.
We haven't done a voice check, so I have no idea how loud I am. If I'm too loud, let me know.
You sound a little loud for me, but...
Uh-oh.
Big hi to everyone so far who's joined us in here. Angelique, Janet, Heidi, Joel, Dax, Heather, who asked the question, Diana, Lisa, Becky, who helped me with some quick questions I had on some jewelry. Lisa Wallace. Hey, Kevin. Howdy. It's snowing in Winnipeg. No, it's not snowing here. Boo snow. Yeah, that's true. Becky's got ice and snow down there, too. Hey, Nellie. I didn't realize you collected doll cases. That was interesting. I saw that post. Holly, let's see. So we got in here. Volume is good for Lisa, so I guess you got volume. It's nice getting feedback on all the Barbie clothes you sold. Yeah, Heather has picked up a batch of vintage or older Barbie clothes. So I thought the easiest thing, again, for most of you may know this, but we'll give you a little sort of history on us as doll sellers. Today we're talking about basically that fashion doll side of things. I'm going to pop Rick just to the side a little bit. That fashion doll side of things. So we're not talking about things that are like the porcelain dolls or the China dolls that you see in thrift shops. We're not talking about the American Girls, the big, huge dolls that you can get like an American Girl or My Journey or anything along those lines, which are the Walmart dolls. We're not talking about the smaller things, which are everything from Polly Pocket to Kiddles to other Polly Pockets to sort of mid-size and strawberry shortcakes and things like that. We're not talking about those kind of dolls either. We're talking about that sort of fashion line that really kicked off in 1959 with Mattel's launch of Barbie, and where it's gone from there. No Annabelle dolls. But we will talk a little bit about some of the other things that you see in those lines, like Sunshine Family and things like that, and Disney dolls and things along those lines. So basically, it's sort of in that 9 to 10, 11, 12-inch doll range, so that taller doll range that started out as the fashion doll, Barbie, in 1959. So we actually have been collecting. I wasn't allowed any girl dolls at all when I was growing up. In fact, when I grew up, I had G.I. Joe, and I had Johnny West, and I had Action Jackson. And Johnny West actually came with an entire family. So there was Johnny West and his wife, Jane West, and their daughters and their 2 sons. And there was the Indian chief and the Chief Cherokee and let's see, I'm trying to remember the others that were part of that line. There was also Stoney Smith. I was allowed every male doll there was. In fact, I was allowed Johnny West and his 2 sons, but I wasn't allowed to get his wife, Jane, or his daughters, Janice or Jamie. So I kind of thought I figured it was almost like getting him back. No, I wasn't even allowed a Ken doll. No, not a Ken doll either. Yeah, I'm actually going to talk about that as well in a second, Angelique, too. There's a couple of shows on there. but I was watching. I went to my cousins, and I actually used to go to my cousins, bring my GI Joe dolls, and I would play with her Barbie dolls. That was in the late '60s, so I was actually playing with dolls that were more in the lines of sort of what we now call the mod era of Barbie, which is 1966, 67 up to 1974, before the Malibus really took off, and then the changes on her face went through the big sort of world of it. So I started actually buying. I bought my first Barbie doll. Actually, Rick and I were together. I bought my first Barbie doll at an auction on Toy Shop magazine, which we've talked about a little bit before. And it was a bubble cut Barbie that I remember my cousin having. And it was sort of that took off. From that point, I actually did like a lot of collectors, which I've talked about with a lot of people as well, is people start with buying something that may not be perfect and try and get better and better. So I used to buy dolls and then try and get one that had a better hand, like their hand might be chewed or things like that, because dolls are meant to be played with in the general sense. So this is why we still to this day sell broken items like Brito or Disney or Jim Shore or things like that, because people want them and they may not be able to afford the full thing yet, but they still want to have it on display. If you think about even when we sold those Holt Howard olive things, the olive and cherry, there had tiny chips in them. And the Wizard of Oz plate that I bought last week has a tiny chip in it, but somebody might buy that and then ramp themselves up for it. So I did that. And then at one point, Rick looked at me and said, what are you going to do with this ton of dolls that you have? And we took a booth at a toy show. And that's where we went to. At one point, we were probably the third or fourth largest Barbie doll dealer, vintage Barbie doll dealer in Canada. We used to hold Barbie shows called the Vinyl Princess that happened once or twice a year with Jane Kupka, who was the person who sort of led me. And she was first was a Barbie dealer and then a working partner of mine. We went to Barbie conventions. We sold at Barbie conventions. We sold at the Barbie shows that we had. We sold at toy shows as well. At those conventions, Rick got his nickname at one point of Barbie Widow. And that was during a convention meeting with Mattel, where they were doing a small focus group with people, and they went to introduce everybody. And as it got to each person, some people were there with their spouses. And probably about 40% of the people who collect Barbies actually are men, likely in many cases gay men, but they're men, and they were there with their boyfriends or spouses. So we had a group of people there, and people were introducing them. Hi, my name is Betty, and this is my husband, Paul, whatever. And I said, I'm Craig, also known as Bad Dog. I was already known as Bad Dog at that point. And then they turned to Rick, and Rick just looked at them and said, hi, I'm Rick.
I'm a Barbie Widow.
I'm a Barbie Widow. So that he didn't have a good dog name at that point. He was just a Barbie Widow, which was really, people got a big kick out of. We toured Mattel. Behind the scenes, we went to special Mattel events. We were actually the opening speakers at one of the opening speakers at Mattel San Diego convention.
The royal we. I don't.
I was, yeah.
Barbie
so all of that was where we collected, and over the years we collected. I had at one point in my collection probably close to 1,000 dolls. We're much lower down now. I've only got about 50 or so that I've kept. I've had every single doll that was ever manufactured between 1959 all the way through to 1974, with the exception of 2 dolls. I never had a number 2 Barbie. I had a number 1 Barbie. We never had a number 2 Barbie. The number 1 Barbie actually sold on eBay too. And I bought it at a convention, but sold on eBay. And I never had a No Bangs Francie, which is a Francie doll that only came out for about 6 months, where she doesn't have bangs. Her hair was sort of pulled back with a little bun on it. So didn't have any of those. So, but over the years, it's still been something that we do. And we've collected and morphed ourselves so that we do also in G.I. Joes and celebrity dolls and all these other things, and collect some of those things too. In fact, down the bottom of our stairs, I've got a little display that's got our Flying Nun, our Dr. Kildare, and our Ben Casey doll all standing surrounded by topiaries, because I thought it was really cute. I found some topiaries at the thrift store that I thought Sister Bertrill would look good at. So I'll maybe post a picture of that a little later. But even to this day, we've dealt with Barbies. What we did never really focused on, though, was what we call the pink box era. So a lot of people think about vintage And when they think about vintage, they hear the term, oh, vintage, that's 2000. Well, in the Barbie world, and again, we're going to talk about other things, but we thought we'd start first with Barbie. In the Barbie world, from 1959 until the mid 70s, you bought dolls, and vintage was actually considered 1959 to 1965, 66. And mod was considered from 1966 to, or 1967 to the early 70s. Now I'm going to show you a picture right now of sort of the faces of Barbie so you can get a little bit better grasp on what I'm talking about here. I'm going to pop Rick out for a second. So this is actually sort of where it all started. So this is the faces of Barbie. This is from a Pinterest board. So 1959, arched eyebrows, very rare, however, can still be found. In fact, Monique Bras, who used to be a member of our group, but had to leave, was, yes, not mod as in B. Arthur mod. That's correct, M-O-D. In fact, her mom, Monique's mom, went to a Goodwill in 2020 and found a #1 Barbie doll for 99 cents at a Goodwill. So this was down in the States, and she sold the doll for over $3,000 on eBay itself. So it's still possible to find them. This is the early dolls. You can see that's the bubble cut is what is known as the most common way for people to know something. That's the faces you can see stayed the same up until about 1965 and 1967. It moved to this new face mold. The new face mold was there until the early 70s, even with Malibu's. And in 1977, this one right here became basically when Superstar Barbie and that big change and what we call bent arm Barbies came out. Now, in a lot of cases, what you'll hear from me in today, especially, is that when you're focusing on things, I'm going to talk to you about things to say you probably should avoid this. There are always going to be select versions of the dolls that could be worth a lot of money. But I'm basically recommending that you guys just throw those aside and go, let somebody else find that, because otherwise you could be wasting hours of time and tons of money and have boxes and boxes of stuff that's worth absolutely nothing. And I see this all the time. Bent arm Barbies, as one of the things I told the Kennel Club, is just avoid them if you can. If you find them in a box, and only certain ones in a box, like the Superstar Barbie, then you may be able to get some good money for them. But generally, you'll find most of these absolutely naked, and they aren't worth the $2.99 to $4.99 that they're sitting in most stores at. Here we go, you can just see some more different, how her face has even evolved. That's one of the things that you look at. You can see it's surprising. Totally hair Barbie. Oh my God, this doll had the longest hair there ever was. This one here, it's actually celebrating her 30th year this year, so time really flies. We've even got further into what the different looks are. Silkstone Barbies and things like this. You don't even think when you look at something like this that these bottom ones are even, they don't even look like Barbie anymore. So nothing really looks like these. But the other thing about this batch up here, these top ones, is Mattel started bringing these all out as reproductions, including a lot of fashions too. So it's one of the things that you have to think about when you're looking at stuff. Yes, spend $1,000 and to find the $200 item. It's exactly. Yeah. Lisa, the Farrah inspired one. And yes, Heather saying, no bend arm. I know that now. Black Barbie can be worth, yes, a lot. That's true, that one. And Adrian wants them because he sets up 10 of them as Uhura in multiverses. I don't remember the exact Barbies I had now. I thought I had the spinning fairy ones that got recalled. Well, the spinning fairies weren't actually Barbies. They were, oh God, the name has escaped me, but they weren't actually Barbie dolls. But so when you're looking at things like this, that's the one thing you have to remember is a lot of stuff is coming out in the years that things have gone by. The vintage and mod, you'll see, came out, and they are bringing new ones out. In fact, less than, I'm not even sure if I got a picture of it. I think I might still. Less than 3 or 4 weeks ago, I was in a thrift store and thought, oh, hey, boom, I hit the, not a jackpot, but a little mini jackpot. I went, oh, this is great. I just found Let's Dance, which is an original 1962 outfit for Barbie. And I grabbed it. I took a closer look at it. And as I looked closer, I'm just trying to see if I can find the picture of my phone right now. As I looked closer at it, I actually turned up the side and saw that the inside said reproduction. So I actually, luckily, you can find that it was a reproduction of the actual outfit. So I wasn't ending up spending money on something that was, I thought would be a $20 or $30 dress that would end up being worth a buck or two. One of the big things that I see all the time is people talking about, I have 1966 Barbies. Now, this is the biggest sort of problem with people who are trying to collect and flip Barbie dolls. Is 1966 is actually the patent for when they did the change to a twist and turn Barbie. So that 1966 long-haired doll that actually had, most dolls originally had a waist that was something like this, just solid. So you could, their legs didn't move, their arms didn't, and their weight, that's it. This was articulation for them, that's all. As things moved on, they moved to, and this is a more newer doll, and this is a bent arm, just to show you one of the things that I got. They moved so that they have their legs bent and clicked, but also their waist twisted. Now, this particular thing is a relatively new doll, and I'm not sure if I can do this properly, but this is a doll from the 80s, and there it is on the back, Mattel 1966 Malaysia. Things like that, Malaysia or something, it also tells you that it's a newer doll. Things that have rings that are missing from their fingers, like there's a hole there. Big earrings that are stuck in that most of the time are coming out. So when we look for stuff like that, even this Cinderella is got the same, it's got a 1989 Malaysia thing on the back of it. So it's not a twist and turn doll, but it's just another type of doll that you find a lot of times in the stores. What you'll also find is clone dolls, and clones are dolls that look like it might have been a Barbie. So like, here's a perfect example of one. This is Claire, the aerobic sister. So this is a 1970s doll that was modeled after Barbie, in essence, because that was the main doll of the 60s and 70s. We used to go to places, and I used to try and buy collections from people. And a story I've told here before, but I always tell it all the time, is that people used to actually say, oh, this is a doll I got. Now, I heard two things all the time. Number one was, these are mine. I had them my entire life. And I would see dolls with 1966 on the back, and they were from the 1990s or 1980s. And I'd say, no, you didn't. They said, yes, I did. My parents gave me this when I was like 3 years old in 1957. I said, okay, first of all, Barbie didn't come out in 1957. It didn't come out until 1959. And this doll actually came out in 1986. And people would go, you're lying to me. It's like, I'm not lying to you. I don't want your dolls. If I really thought they were worth money, I would buy your dolls. I don't want them because your parents cheaped out. Because if you go and find an old catalog back in the 60s and 70s, if you see old Montgomery Ward's or Sears catalogs or Eaton's catalogs, you'll see Barbie dolls, and then beside it, you'll see another doll that looked like it, but it was $1 to $2 cheaper. So a Barbie doll might be $2.99. The Sears Bonnie doll was 99 cents. And so parents bought that, and as a 6-year-old girl, you had no idea that you weren't getting a Barbie. You just opened the box and started playing with the doll and dressing the doll. So I was always working with people who said, no, I'm sorry, your doll is not old. Number one, you're lying to me about when you got it. Number two, you probably picked it up at a thrift store. Number three, or at a garage sale, and you're trying to pass it off. And if you go even right now into Craigslist, Kijiji, or Marketplace, you're going to see lists of everybody saying vintage 1966 dolls. So that's the first thing you're going to look for, is it's really not necessarily vintage if it says 1966 on it. Rick is very familiar with seeing that sort of thing too, and pointing it out. And we've seen it sometimes in various groups, even in the vintage Barbie group itself that's on Facebook that I'm part of. You're constant, and it only takes for items up to 1972. I constantly see people posting brand new looking dolls that still say 1966 on them. There's a lot that you have to learn, but again, my main thing is to just try and think about, take a little bit of time. Don't spend a lot of money on them. And really, if you're looking at something you think looks older, then you'll get a better feel for it. And so I'm just going to show you a video right now. This was actually what prompted me to think about doing this show. This was this was on Friday at literally at a local Salvation Army. We just went shopping. I had to drop something off. I dropped my car off. I said to Rick, "You sit in the car while and he said, "Yeah." I said, "I'm just going to run in here and I won't get anything." See if I can. There we go. So this is, so I walk by and I spot, the minute I actually look at this tells you how much of a Barbie person I am. I spot this flat foot. This flat foot that looks like it's rubber versus a little bit of a flat foot versus a little bit of a curve in the foot. And I can see it from 10 feet away. And I go, aha, I found a skipper. And literally, I knew I found a skipper. So it was time for me to do a little digging. So this is me doing a little bit of digging while I'm holding on to my camera. So the first thing I picked up was, I see there's that skipper. That's a skipper in an original skipper bathing suit. It's a bend leg skipper. Her hair's a bit of a mess. Right beside her, and I didn't get it in properly in the image, was a clone doll, which I'll show you in a second as well. Then I dug a little bit deeper, and there was a Tammy. And underneath that, you can sort of see you can see the difference even when the dolls, when you're looking at them in there. This was flashing me. That was another clone, actually. And then underneath that, this was a bend leg Francie. So again, I knew enough to look at them, but the rest of everything inside that entire back box was worth absolutely nada. So this is the things that I ended up picking up. So first thing I saw, this is again, when I talked about, that's the flat foot that stuck out the side. You can even see there's little bits of holes in there. That's from the rubber molding on this. So Skipper, when she came out, and these were $2.99. Skipper, when she came out, she'll have her hair tamed. $2.99. She's probably only about a $30, $35 doll. Bathing suit's nice to have. It's not in perfect shape. She does have the bendable legs. So that Skipper came out with legs that didn't bend and then did bend. And if you are ever going to sell one and it's an older doll and a vintage doll, you can check with us. Don't have a problem. Send us a message. If you're in the Kennel Club, we'll tell you what you need to know. But one of the key things that you always want to do is tell somebody who's buying a vintage Barbie that the leg has 3 clicks. 1, 2, 3. So this one does not hold to the 3rd click, as you can see. But it's important. 1, 2, 3. That one doesn't hold either. So it's important to let the person know who's buying the doll that if this was in better shape, it would have had a 3 click. Not twist and turn, but this is 1965. So it's before the American Girls, which is the more expensive dolls that we'll talk a little bit about. So that's number 1. She was $2.99 for $30. Number 2, which you missed, was actually this one. So some people will think this is a Barbie, and this is what I'm talking about when the parents, this is a Barbie, I know this is a bubblegum. No, this is a knockoff. In fact, it says right on the back of it, Reliable Canada. So it's not Mattel. It's not that swell. Well, there are clone collectors. There's actually a group on Facebook for Barbie and clone collectors. So a lot of people do like these clones. Finding these in the actual box as well you can get good money for them, especially if they're in the original boxes. So this is just happens to be a clone that I picked up because I just wanted to have all 5 of the things that I grabbed at once. $2.99 again, probably only worth about $10 at the most. If the legs didn't click well, would you have still got her? Yes, I would have potentially maybe thrown her in an outfit, and I wouldn't get as much. I'd probably get about $15 for her versus $30. I could probably get $40 if she was perfect, but she's just not there. So again, this is like only a $10 doll. So $2.99 flipping for $10. The next one was Tammy. So again, there's this look to this doll. This is the closest thing for anybody. Tammy and Cindy dolls in Canada and in Britain were 2 of the other dolls, which basically Cindy is a Tammy with a different hair, made by Ideal. This was the only thing that anybody really competed with Barbie. She actually looks like her hair might be in an original set. This is an original outfit for her as well. But she's not really fashionable. But that is the Tammy outfit on her. Then next one down was the flashing clone. And this is the flashing clone. Now, she had great hair for somebody. Like, the hair looks like it's still, like, it's all still original. So that's what somebody will want. Now, I'm trying to hold these up so she's not flashing everybody into my... again, the basic idea of the same thing for Barbie. She could wear Barbie shoes. All right. She would wear Barbie shoes, straight legs, straight thing, and there she goes flashing again. So this one is probably a $15 to $20 clone. She needs a little bit of fixing done to her makeup. So all of those things are things that affect the value of them. And finally, this is the bend leg Francie. She is in great shape. She has a little bit of a flip still to her hair, which is all original. She has blush, which is great because some have less blush. And in the 60s, they came out with eyelashes, and you can actually look and see there she has the full eyelashes. So all of those things, again, are things that you want to, if you're selling a doll, you want to start telling people part of the eyelashes are missing, or the legs. And in her case, 1, 2, 3. So you see the third click and it holds there. So you can hear how solid they are too. So her third click doesn't go on that other leg. A lot of times you have chewed feet, you have chewed fingernails, you have bad makeup, you have rubs to noses. The older dolls had their earrings actually originally put in them, and if they left them in, their ears turned green. I think I might even have a picture of one of those, which is another one that I've got. This is actually this is something else I grabbed from the thing, and just showing you here this bubble cut. Oops, sorry, wrong thing, wrong side. You can actually see, hopefully you'll see a little bit of the green all around the ear on this doll, and that's because the earrings were left in for the longest time, and so they actually oxidized. Both sides of her face are actually now oxidized to this greening on her face, which you could rarely actually get rid of. This happens to be the next one, which is a Color Magic, very expensive doll. I've got one of those I'm putting up for sale, about $350 for her. Bubble cuts sell for around, they went up and they went back down. Bubble cuts are now, this is the second doll, in the neighborhood of $30 to $50. They really don't have a lot of value to them. If this case, a doll with green probably has even less value, $20, $10 to $20. And the ponytails can run a number 1 up to $6,000, $7,000, but up to a number 6 because they changed over the years. Through 1 through 6, different, little bit hairstyle different, little bit body styles different, and they can run from hundreds of dollars or not. So it's something to think about when you're collecting them. But again, just remember that older dolls, it's a little, you can tell the what they're made out of, the plastic and everything like that is a lot different. Yeah, we actually sometimes do that. We do show that, and we show that the arms don't swing when we're doing those, especially if we want more money for them. Yes, and they have pinholes in the boobs as well. that's a big one. You can clean up the green. It's very difficult. We don't bother anymore. You have to do this whole process, and we just say, no, we're not going to end up, we don't even bother doing that. So Barbie was the biggest thing for everybody for the longest time. It still is pretty darn good, and it's still pretty darn big today. And I'm going to talk to you about 1 or 2 things that to keep your eyes open for on Barbie just after we go to the next sort of round of stuff. So this was the main thing, is trying to get to think about, there are Barbies out there, and vintage Barbies can be worth money. The bend elbow Barbies that I was showing you here are usually worth a lot less. So when you go to the thrift and you see dolls that look like either one of these, pretty well, they're all flashing this right now. Either one of these kind of dolls that look like this, so fingers splayed, you can tell the feel of them, and you're just going to have to look at them a little bit more. Bigger, chunkier hair, faces. You'll see a lot of these in bags. That's basically the easiest thing to think about, is if you see a lot of these, just have a tendency maybe just to pass by most of them. Again, you may find a good one, but a lot of times as well, when you're finding these naked, and if you find them naked, they're worth even less. Hopefully, if you're going to make that extra little spend on it, and if it's less than a latte, it's got to be bought. Then you're going to think, I got to have a doll that's dressed, or you got to know what it is. Like, I ended up spending a total of $10 on these 5, but that Francie is probably going to list for us for about $75. So we're going to make our money. And that clone will be about 30. The other clone will be probably about 10. Tammy maybe 15 to 20. There she is. And Skipper maybe. So hopefully you'll get about $150 for this for a $10 investment. The easiest way I've found when you're trying to buy these to figure out if something's really vintage or not is if it has the original case. Now, earlier today, Heather actually asked about cases and buying cases, and Nellie actually said that she collects cases. Well, we actually try to avoid cases in all shapes and forms. And the reason that we don't buy cases, and see if Rick if you can pull some pictures of Barbie cases up, Rick, the vinyls. The reason we don't buy them is, number one, they're very hard to ship. They're big. And there were millions of these made, and you find them all the time. They usually have a lot of splits to them. They're usually missing the inside cardboard boxes that held the accessories and things along those lines. So it's all things that are just, basically, it's a larger thing that you really don't need to waste money on. If you are a collector, like Nellie does collect, and we did collect at one point cases, we had probably about 15 to 20 cases in. There's a whole bunch of them that you can see there, and it's just most of them are very, very common cases. So if you can find a rare case, great, but you wouldn't know what a rare case is. Nellie might, I might, because I'm used to seeing it and trying to figure out what something is. So like, I know that certain colors of cases are harder to find. A certain color dress on a case is hard. But for example, that one World of Barbie case, I think I see either the pink one or the blue one, either one of those. I probably click on either one of those, right? I probably see these at least once every month in a, this person wants $44. No, they're not going to get it. That person wants $20. Again, that's not even really worth that. So I would avoid in general most of those. And the case that Heather had in the Facebook group had a big marker on it as well. The vinyl is split in a lot of times in places. It's just really not worthwhile. It's mainly people who want them, like Nellie might have, or we did. We wanted them to actually put on display behind our dolls. That was the single thing. And so they weren't really well taken care of either, because people bashed them around. They carried their dolls with them everywhere and bashed them all over the place. So, so when you're looking at the thrift store wall, and I'll go to that picture again, that doll slate that we got here. When you're looking at that thrift store wall, you'll see there's tons of dolls sitting here in the baggies. Well, I can tell you, in this particular case of this particular wall that we were at, we did not buy anything from this entire wall. And let's see if I can get a better picture of that up for you to see right now. So this is... hold on, let me just grab this for a second. Where is there? No, where are you? Here it is. So this is the wall that we were looking at. And when we look at it, we can take a look at it and see most of them have the slightly bent elbows. A lot of them have a lot of them are naked as well. And so what we're looking for in this is to and this is where I'm taking you now to, is what happened after Barbie. So Barbie was there and was the biggest thing, and that's what you would find all the time until about 20 years ago. And 20 years ago was the launch of a huge competitor to Barbie. So there are all these little things that happen in between. There are little dolls that may have come out in here and there, like the Sunshine Family or things like that, or even Donnie and Marie, or those all came out. They sort of came and went. But the one thing, even other superstar fashion dolls, Darcy came out. There's one in between that you can easily spot. And if you get to a thrift store and you see anything that shines like this for hair colors, or this, you know, you could probably take a quicker look at those. These are Gem dolls from Gem and the Holograms. Jem herself has plain old blonde hair, but these are holograms and misfit dolls. And in both of these cases, they're easy to spot inside a baggie or at a thrift store in a bin or at a flea market. And these have some value to them. Some have more value to them than others. Clothing is harder to get. I can sell shoes that belong on these things for $10 on their own. So we have a few of these downstairs. This is probably about a $20 doll. This one is probably about a $20 to $5 doll as well. She does have her other hand. It's inside there, just hidden in her. I'm not sure if this is an original outfit for Jem or not. Also pieces to these. Jem had a guitar and saxophones and things like those. Those are things that we've sold as well. The accessories for like $10 here, $10 there. And sometimes it's even better to break those up if you find a doll with accessories. So those are the one thing that you kind of see between that and then in the year 2000. In the year 2001, actually, a competitor came out, and it's Bratz Dolls. Now, if you aren't sure what a Bratz doll is, this is Bratz Dolls, or as I call them, the whores. Okay, I don't think there's any other way. You've thought of them that way the entire time, haven't you, Rick?
Yep, pretty much.
They are to me, they were like, I don't think, when I look at the Barbie dolls and things like that from the past, and I see, oh, okay, Barbie was around, but Barbie was like trying to be an astronaut and a fashion designer and a teacher and a veterinarian, all these things through the years. And all I looked at when I saw these things come out in the year 2001 was, oh, they look very whorish. Like it's like skanky dolls.
Just need a stripper pole.
They just needed a stripper pole. And you probably could make one out of a straw if you wanted to. The biggest controversy about Bratz Dolls was it was developed by someone who worked part-time at Mattel. They had worked part-time in and out of Mattel. They went to MGA, which is another doll company, and they launched these dolls in the year 2000. The thing is, by the year 2006, Bratz Dolls had 40% of the fashion doll market.
Wasn't there a lawsuit?
There was a lawsuit, yes. There was a lawsuit as well from Mattel. There was a lawsuit that went on for quite a long while, actually. Angela, I always thought they should be standing on a street corner. Yes, it really does. Bratz. Lisa. Diana hates those dolls. Hey, Mother's Mustache. You see what it takes to bring you out of a lurk mode. Thanks for joining us, Mothers, from not lurking. Bratz Dolls. Yes, Tammy does look a bit like a little Debbie knockoff. Is that who this is? I guess Mother's Mustache is Ainsley. Hey, Ainsley. We even know your name. But yes, with Bratz Dolls, they came out in 2001, and they're still, in fact, this year they celebrated, in 2021, they celebrated their 20th anniversary again. And here's the thing that I want you to think about as a doll reseller is you've got to remember that the same thing happened originally with Barbie. The dolls that, in the most part, girls grew up with and played with when they were 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, whatever age, they got rid of them. Their mom threw them out. Like whatever they did. When they get to the ability to spend their own money because they have their own apartment or their own space and their own job, and they start investing in the things that they used to remember from when they were a kid. That's what happened with me with original Barbies. So when I played with the first PJ doll when I was in 1968, when I was with my cousins, I had to have a PJ. In fact, I had so many PJs at one point. I think we had like 7 or 8 of them loose. I had 3 or 4 of them in boxes. I got to the point where I finally found one that was brand new, still sealed from 1967. And that was like the prize of my thing. That's downstairs still in my collection. But that's what happens. You get people. And now it's 20 years later and Bratz is at their 20th anniversary and they're re-releasing the dolls that were the original 4 dolls. So you can actually look for the re-releases now. And you're going to have to watch the same with all the Barbie stuff getting re-releases to some degree. Okay. It's good to know. But there'll be people who are looking for them. And it was really funny because for the longest time, I didn't see Bratz Dolls at the thrift. I saw them a lot in the early 2010, 2013, 2014, 2015. And then for it seemed to be about a 2 to 3 year period, boom, they disappeared. They did stop producing them, but they just disappeared from even showing up in the thrifts. Barbie still did because they were always still out there. The occasional gem would show up. The occasional other kind of doll might show up in there. But I didn't see a lot of Bratz for this one period of time. And what happened was Bratz did such a good job in sort of introducing a completely different way. Yeah, that's just it. I've started seeing them now in the past 6 months a lot more than I had before. I actually saw some yesterday that I didn't buy because their faces had been colored on with too much marker and I wasn't going to be able to clear it. Dawn and Pippa are smaller size dolls, so they're sort of in that world of Pippa is the British version of Dawn that is from the 70s, and I'm not really talking about them. I'm talking more about the 11.5, 12-inch fashion doll sort of competitors at the moment. Heather said a while ago we bought Bratz dolls and couldn't sell them. I hope you still have them, because if you could, you might actually find them. Lisa said I sold a Bratz bar set for $50 in Kijiji and shipped it to Montreal a couple of years ago. Yes, I actually have a batch down there that I picked up at a Max sold recently. So, but maybe I'll do a different show about other kinds of dolls. This is really a top line for what you should think about and look out for. So you can keep your eyes open. These are very, very easy to find. Big, huge lips, big, huge eyes. Now, the thing about them that is terrible is their feet are not feet. They're shoes. So what happens is you'll find a lot of these in a thrift without their feet. And I'm trying to, I think, wait, if I can hold on a second. So this is, just so you guys know, this is my sort box right now. This is my sort box. This entire thing is stuff that I picked up in the past 2 months or so. And some of it is, let's see if I can get in here. So we've got Monster High, which I was going to get into in a minute. But so here is a Bratz doll. And believe it or not, I actually paid $6 for this Bratz doll. It was a bit of a risk. I did a 20% thing. Now, here's what I'm talking about. I got to take this off because it's easier to see. This is a Bratz doll. It's actually one of the earlier ones. One of the things I always try to look for is with any items that I see, one, is their hair as still original as it looked like it could have been? This does look original in the bag. Two, I could see she still had original earrings on both sides of her head, which means that to me, this doll has probably been very lightly played with. This is an original outfit. She even still has this on. So this is one of the reasons I paid money. But if you pull off her shoe, that's what her feet look like. See that? Her foot is just, and that's what Rick has downstairs, a bag filled with Bratz feet. So dolls that have no feet. Don't buy Bratz dolls that have no feet. Unless you can.
Where are you?
Shoes. Now, the thing is, we actually bought I found a few baggies with shoes in them. And what I've done is taken those baggies with shoes in them and I put them up on eBay and sold a few of them already for a little bit of money here and there. I'm just trying to see what else is in here, if I've got any more. I think I got a couple more Bratz in here. I just got to figure out where they are in this pile of stuff. The other thing that I'm going to talk about, and this is the big one, actually. I know I had more Bratz in here. Here's one. And the bottom here. I had to go to this one. And actually, I just bought one on Monday. And this is why Google Images is good. It was a Bratz doll. She had a cheerleader outfit on. So I got to be able to look her up using Google and found out that I bought her in a baggie for $4.99. And she was actually about a $45 doll loose. So again, that's where that sort of thing works for you. Well, what I was talking about yeah, it is so off. The head ratio is so off. But yeah, that's it's just interesting. Yeah, it does give a whole new meaning to lost shoes. But what ended up happening was after Bratz got brought out, Mattel started going, wait a second, we're losing our market from Barbie. People don't want Barbie. They want something different. And so what they ended up in 2010, so just about 12 years ago, they came out with the infamous Monster High doll. So Monster High, you probably know, is something that I've always said I try to pick up as much as I can. So this was a good find. This was $3.99. This baggie had 2 Monster High dolls in it, both of them with original stands. The thing that I like about finding Monster High dolls is a lot of times you can find them with their original clothing still intact. You don't have to worry about no feet on them at all. This is what Monster High basically is. It is a high school for monsters. And the high school for monsters included like Dracula's daughter and the Wolfman's daughter and Frankenstein's daughter and the creature from the Black Lagoon's daughter and all that kind of stuff. And so that was something you should find. That was 2013 and then, or 2010. And then closer to just after that came out their adjacents, which were these, which are Ever After High. So Monster High and Ever After High kind of work together. Ever After High is the daughters or granddaughters of Alice in Wonderland, Little Red Riding Hood, more of the fairy tale side of things. So not the scary kind, but more of the fairy tales. And again, you can find these sometimes with their outfits, a lot of times still with their original outfits. So these are the ones that I'm always trying to spot when I look at that baggie wall. If I can find something that looks like this, I'm going to pop that bigger picture of me right there. So if I can find something that looks like this, where I can see things hanging in a baggie that looks like I've got outfits on them. I mean, I'm just going to grab a few here. This is another bag. This happened to be a $2.99 bag. And it had 3 dolls in it. The other thing to make sure you're looking out for as well is that they still have their arms, their hands, or things along those lines. What's this one here? This is another baggie that I picked up. And I got to do a little research. That was another $2.99 baggie with a few of them inside there. Now, some of these figures can go for really good money. Some of them can go for, we've sold a number of these loose for $20, $30, $40 and up. You can also sometimes get really lucky and find one in a box, kind of like we did with that my scene, the bling bling, things along those lines. In fact, Chris's treasure chest, I don't think Chris is here today. Chris's treasure chest just did a video where last week he was at a Value Village and he picked up an Ever After High doll in the box for $5.99. That's like $100 doll. So they don't price things terribly there. Baby Bratz. So these are the kind of things I'm looking for now. This was $3.99 for this whole bag. Some Baby Bratz can go for $10, $20, $30. This is a set of twins, by the way. That's the reason. I looked them up before I picked them up for $3.99 even. But that's what I'm trying to always keep my eyes open for in those sections, is trying to find anything that may be. And then I do the little bit of research that goes on after that. And the research that goes on after that is going to sites where, so this was another bag. Well, that was one I already showed you guys. There's another one. That was another lucky $3.99 baggie that had dolls with stands in them. So, yes, the Baby Bratz. If I can find an image of the Baby Bratz twins. This is the Baby Bratz twins. Just so, no, that's. I gotta get a better picture than that. Yeah, because this is just exactly what you want your child to be playing with. Yeah, don't tell me these aren't little hookers, because they sure are little hookers. But then again, even nowadays, if you look at what's out there, that's what's going on. If you've taken a look at those kind of dolls, you can see a lot more. No, I'm not going. No, bad, Dawn. That's gonna be stuck in my head. So you think about those things I want you to look for, as I said, those two. One more that's also in this sort of weird world, which is Equestria dolls, which was from Hasbro. It was their version, kind of like My Little Pony. And some of these, again, loose can be worth good money. And the main reason you'll be able to figure out those, number one, they're a little bit smaller than a Monster High doll, but they're usually colored, like purple, green, all sorts of different colors. And they have ears because they're horsies. Not as big a seller potentially, but there are quite a few people who do collect those as well. So keep a look at those kind of things when you're looking in the try and see if you can spot right now, sort of in your thrift. Keep your eyes open for Bratz, Monster High, Ever After High, and Equestria, and try as best you can to have them dressed and with feet. That's kind of what you need to.
And hands,
because hands do come off of the Monster High dolls too. So yeah, that's one of the main things that you want to keep your eyes open for. There's other things in there that I don't want you to look for, and this is why I'm saying don't spend too much time on things. Like at one point during that lawsuit, the people from Bratz brought out their own version of things called moxie. These have virtually no value. Like this entire set of 3 still in their boxes just sold for $50. That's $10 or $15 per doll. And you can see they're a little bit like a Bratz doll. If you're looking at the picture of them, they're a little bit like them. They got a little bit bigger lips, a little bit bigger eyes.
Without the makeup. So they're
without as much bad makeup and without as much whorish outfits, like sort of roller skating and things like that. But these did not do well. So you can't.
They were safety tested.
Yeah, they're not the best thing for you to look at. Here's another one I'm going to tell you that is something that is to keep your eyes open for if you can find these. And this is back to Barbie because it's one of the newer things that you can see in Barbie that might actually have some money for you. And that is Barbie fashionistas. Fashionistas are where Barbie over the past number of years have moved into a bunch of different body types for the dolls. Fashionistas actually started, I think, in 2010. But might have been as far back as 2001. But the original fashionistas are much more what we consider to be they're like Silkstone. They're very glamorous. They're in bigger boxes. They're a little harder to find for you. But what I'm talking about with you is keep your eyes open for this particular kind of box, a black and white striped box. And normally when you see these, you will find a number on them. It'll say like Fashionistas 123. They're so easy to look up when you're taking a look at them on eBay for comparable solds. They are something that, especially in the box, there's people who are looking for various ones. Every year they come out. They're still in right now. They're still in Toys R Us. The packaging changes up slightly every year, and but each number, it becomes different body types, different hair types, different outfit types. There's still people who are trying to collect them. There are also people who collect a lot of them of one type, make their own clothing and all that sort of stuff. Special issues of Barbie and things like that. So anything from basically the late 1980s up until the year 2000, we call those pink box. They aren't necessarily all technical pink box. There are some that are made by Bob Mackie and things like that were very special. Porcelain ones. Some of those you used to be able to get big, huge money for Bob Mackie's. Back when I was doing the collecting and selling in the 90s, Bob Mackie dolls were selling for $250 to $500 to $700 a piece. And in some cases now you can barely break $100 on those. Avon Barbies, like Avon itself, not worth a single thing. The Tippi Hedren doll Barbie that Heather just picked up, I think that, again, it's nice it's in the box, but it's probably sold originally for somewhere in the neighborhood of $60 or $70. I'd have to ask Rick to take a look up to see what he can find on that.
Surprisingly.
So that one is a really good one. That's a black label that's got good money on it.
Yep. So I did sort these from highest price plus shipping, highest first. So recently 261, 210, 192, 199.
Again, there's certain ones that are like this that make money and other ones that don't. So try your best to look them up before you actually go and do the purchase. Like there are I Love Lucy Barbies, collectible Barbies. And these, again, most of the time, if you're getting these, you want to have them in their boxes. There's some that are worth a couple of $100. There are other ones that are worth like 20. Things that are special editions like Grease, Star Trek, things like that. At one, they ride up and down in terms of values, but a lot of times, if you find them in an antique store, they probably aren't going to be worth your while. So always try to take a look at what the eBay solds are, or what your worth point solds are. That's one of the other reasons that we love worth point as well, is that it gives us 10 years worth of sales on
just
eBay.
a year if you
so harder to find dolls, or dolls that might have had a good ramp up, are much more likely to actually, you can look at them versus maybe you might not find any typical Pink Lady Grease doll right now. If there's none on there for 90 days, which is what you're normally looking for in the solds, that's all you see on there. Yeah, so Adrian saying the Uhura Barbie is worth a lot right now, but Spock and Kirk, there's a Barbie and Ken in Star Trek, and they aren't worth tons of money either. Yeah, to some degree, it can fluctuate on what's going on in the entertainment world. These two have great. Thank you. We've been doing Barbies for a long, long time, and as a collector and seller, we didn't touch things like Monster High even probably 3 years ago, Rick. I don't think we had a Monster High listed anywhere 3 years ago. So we're evolving as resellers with what the market evolves, and that's one of the things that I want to sort of the last one I want to talk to you about, which is what you're going to start seeing a lot of right now. Because I'm starting to see these starting to show up now. Now, I do not know really what the market is for these, but this is MGA Entertainment, the same people who were doing the Bratz dolls for the longest time. And this is the big thing. And for the past, actually, 3 years or so, this has been their biggest sellers, which are these dolls that you probably know called the LOL dolls. So this actually is the LOL Grease dolls. There are LOL Surprise dolls. This is the LOL Mini dolls, Tween dolls. These things are like huge in the retail stores right now. In some, this is actually what's on Walmart right now. So $35 is the Queen's Runaway dolls. There were the balls with the dolls inside them. There's glow in the dark. So there's OMG dolls and LOL dolls. There's so many of these things. But now I'm starting to see these guys pop up into thrift stores. And that's because it's now been 2 or 3 years that they have been out on the market. And there's something I did not know. Male LOL dolls have realistic genitals. I had no idea. I have no idea about that, but now that's something I learned that I did not know. But Trick or Treat dolls. So this is one of those things that, yeah, they are extremely expensive too. When I've gone to a Walmart, it's unbelievable how much the dolls are nowadays. Even Barbie, like they're doing so many things with Barbie with color changing, or dolls that are sealed, like blind box dolls, that I actually have found a couple of sites that for people who are guys who collect dolls, there's a Facebook group called Dudes with Dolls. And there's people on there who will post the code you can find on the outside of the box so that you know you will get a blonde color change Ken Mermaid if you buy that one. Like, because otherwise you're buying blindly and could end up with the same thing over and over again. But this is the one thing that I think is possibly the one to look out for. Because as I said, the people who are playing with LOL dolls right now are the ones who, like you, right now, we just had like Dawn said, your niece loves LOL dolls. And so with that, you got to think your niece in 15 years is going to be the one going, oh my God, I remember my LOL dolls. So if you can find them and you can find them cheap, or you can find them in their packages. That's something that you might want to consider. We recently were bidding on a max sold auction in our area that had somebody who had, what was it, Rick, about 75 plus of the Bratz dolls and outfits and things like that in their boxes. So it was a collector who obviously wanted to get rid of them. We actually bid ourselves up to $700 on that lot because there were a couple of Bratz dolls in that lot that were selling in the box for $200 to $300 a piece. We stopped at the $700 mark though because we thought we just can't do that anymore. We couldn't go any higher.
Premium too, and
plus the buyer's premium tax, it would have put over $1,000. It was like, no, there were some things in there, the outfits that didn't have a lot of money behind them either. They were $5 or $10 outfits. So always do your little bit of research, but for now, keep your eyes open for those. Now go back to them again. Monster High, Bratz with feet, Ever After, which looked like the Monster High, but it's usually what you tell those is it's going to be their outfits, because if they're naked, you won't even know, and Equestria dolls. So I want you to think about finding these 4 things when you're doing your searches, and maybe an LOL doll, and see if you can figure out whether or not it's worth time to spend flipping that. So Barbies themselves, yes, keep your eyes open on those. But remember, a doll like a Tammy or a Cindy, depending on what it is, may only be a $20 or $30 or $40 doll. So you don't want to be spending $5 or $10 on these things at a thrift store if they're priced that way. You need to make sure you're not buying things like this and thinking, I've got a Barbie, when you don't. You've got to make sure you're not buying things like this thinking you have a 1966 doll when you have something that's from the mid-'80s and is worth about $1 at the most. These things are the type of things that I don't even know how we got these. Like, this had to be in a baggie, probably with a gem doll. That's the reason that I have some of these. It's like, I didn't want this, but I sure as heck wanted this. And if these were packaged together in that bag, I would have been picking the bag up just for the one. I have a box downstairs that is filled with these that's going to go into an upcoming max sold for me to get rid of, or to the thrift store, back to the thrift store myself. So if you have anything that you are interested in learning more about, if you're in the Kennel Club, and thanks again to everybody here who is in the Kennel Club, then please just ask a question about it in there, and we'll talk to you a lot more about that. We might try and do a couple of smaller detailed videos on it, depending on what ends up happening. And I don't know what the heck he's doing at the moment. What is that, Rick? I guess I'll swap you around for a second. Let's see.
That was the cycladic head that we got at one of the thrift stores on our...
Why are you bringing that up on a Barbie show?
Because I wanted to say good night.
Oh.
That's all.
Yes, you could actually make a Barbie Christmas wreath and sell it. People have done that. Or they take the heads off and they turn them into earrings and things along those lines. So, but yes, it's fun to collect. It's fun to thrift as long as you're buying them for a good price. Again, watch your pricing. Don't be buying a bunch of them. There's a Value Village by me for some reason that has these loose dolls for $7.99, and they're selling. And I don't know why. Like, I literally don't know why. There is not a value for them to be. There are people, I'm sure, grabbing these things up thinking, I got a bunch of 1966 dolls. They're worth hundreds of dollars. No, they're not. And most of the dolls are naked or don't have shoes. Like, try your best to find things. If you can find baggy lots of clothing that are vintage clothing or shoes. Like, I don't even know what's in this, but for $5.99, actually, I did pick it up because I could tell personally after collecting these for years that I've got a couple of 1980s Barbie fashions in here, which I'm actually going to flip. There's a Barbie in the rocker's top. But again, I know that. I wouldn't want any of you guys to walk out there and try and spend $6 on this bag without knowing that there's something in there that you could flip. You see a lot of Barbies in their boxes from the 90s, I'm guessing, because they're closing at most yard sales, and I can't even comp them. Myself comp them. Yeah, pink box stuff, it's not, in a lot of cases, it's really not worth it. There are millions and millions of those dolls out there. So try your best to not spend money where you don't have to. Maybe take a dip into the reselling doll pool by picking up one of those colorful Bratz dolls, picking up a Monster High, picking up a gem doll with the colorful hair, and seeing if you can flip that, and then learn more a little bit about what you like too. Because if you want to have them on display while you're waiting for them to sell, that's not a bad thing either. We have a couple of shelves downstairs that are filled with some dolls that are going to be going on sale, and I just put them up there after I bought them. I bought some batches at Max Sold. I bought a case that I managed to find at a Goodwill for $29 that had a Barbie swirl doll in it from 1966, as well as a bunch of about 30 different pieces of clothing. And most of the clothing was marked and tagged as Barbie. But again, I'm a collector. I know what's there. So don't risk too much money, but take a chance on a few things. Most holiday Barbies, again, yeah, Jimmy, you're right. They were good. So much on the Barbie market tanked about 15 years ago that these things used to go for hundreds and hundreds of dollars. The number one Hallmark Barbie ornament used to go for close to $100. You can find them now for $3 and $4 on eBay even. So again, it's not necessarily the best thing to do as an investment. You'll see a lot of those big, beautiful dresses. You might even see those at thrift stores too, and they'll try and put those in the cases, or they'll try and charge you more money for them. No, they're not worth it. Hundreds of thousands of those still in boxes in tons of people's attics. If you want to see something that's a little fun, tune into us this Thursday at 8:30. We have our first live Max Sold auction of 2022. It's a mixture of a whole bunch of different things on this auction as well. It's a mid-century vintage and things along those lines. If anybody in here wants to bid on anything, and they just send us an email, send us a message in the Kennel Club, we can arrange for later pickup. We can arrange for shipping if there's items that you want to bid on too. That's also something that is viable, especially for all of you members of the Kennel Club and those of you who watch us here on YouTube. Rick will put a link in. We'll have a link here on the bottom of our thing, but we'll also be listing this YouTube show coming up for this Thursday at 8:30. We're not going to be doing the listing shows on Sundays for a little while, just because we have activity happening on most of the Sundays coming up. This Sunday is our pickup for Max Sold, so we're going to be working on that versus doing a listing. So there, Rick just put the Max Sold listing in there as well. I would doubt it. There's certain Gone with the Wind things that may, but there's still, again, there's hundreds of thousands of Scarlett O'Hara dolls out there right now. So it's, yeah, American Girl clothes, American doll clothes, yes, they're always a must buy. And that's sort of not in that fashionable, that's more in the play world. And we'll talk about that maybe in a different show coming up. Hopefully you got some ideas on things to look at and flip, or take a basic buy on how to turn some dolls into some dollars. Again, it's something we do all the time. It's a regular sale for us on a pretty regular basis, and it's not a big investment. So keep your eyes open for those sort of things when you're thrifting. And hopefully you'll see us back here next Tuesday when we'll do what's sold for us in March. Maybe there'll be a doll or two. I'm not sure.
Maybe.
Thanks for everybody for joining. Hey, bye bad dog downstairs. Good. Bye from bad dog. Bye good dog downstairs. I think it's time for me to eat. I didn't eat a dinner.
It's time to eat.
Why are you looking like that at me? Oh, that's right, because that's the way it looks like when we're talking to each other.
I'm looking at you on screen.
2 different levels of the house. Isn't this fun? See y'all later. Woof. Bad dog. Out of here.